Kia ora talofa namaste, haere mai and welcome to the Niche Cache. This is where we get deep into Aotearoa sporting matters. Got lots of football, lots of cricket, even a little bit of rugby league, a little bit of basketball as well. But weaving through them all, we had a crazy weekend of sport. A couple of young phenoms, some crazy youngsters, and I don't think we're necessarily lacking supreme young talent in Aotearoa sport at the moment, but we had Sam Ruthe just going crazy as he does every weekend, which is mental, and Pia Vlok. Who's older? Pia Vlok's a bit older. She's 17, right?
Yeah, 1 year older, I guess, for what it's worth. They're literally both still at high school. So.
Yeah, and Pia Vlok scored a hat-trick, big win for the Wellington Phoenix woman, and I was thinking, like, Sam Ruthe, the stuff he's doing, running, is, depending on where you're from, depending on how you want to slice and dice it, is best in the world. Top 5, top 10, whatever. He is in the best. He's probably the best 16-year-old, but then you get into 17 or 18-year-olds, and he's among the best in the world. The world of football is pretty big, but like Pia Vlok, 17-year-old woman, I think she's top 10 in the world. With using my infinite knowledge of 17-year-old female soccer players around the world, I think Pia Vlok is a top 10 17-year-old female soccer player. Is that naive, or is that like Pia Vlok is in that kind of category? Because like surely there's not 10 17-year-olds who are better at football than Pia Vlok.
I think you'd be surprised. So I'd say there's absolutely no chance she's in the top 10 17-year-old players in the world, but I'm willing to suspend my disbelief and go with it anyway, just because she's our one, you know.
Yeah.
I don't care how many good 17-year-olds they have in America or England or Brazil or whatever. Like, we got a pretty good one in New Zealand, and I'm happy with that.
My favorite thing about Sam Ruthe is that he's just running, right? So Pia Vlok, she's playing football. There's a lot of different things, and I'll get into Pia Vlok in a jiffy. There's another player I want to talk about, but they're playing a sport that involves many different skills and tricks, and you need to have the fitness, but you need to have the foot-eye coordination and the hand-eye coordination and the power and the skill and the finesse and all this stuff. Sam Ruthe's just running. And that's when you get into those type of Olympic style sporting events. That's why it's so awesome, because it's so pure. And Sam Ruthe, like, of all the humans in the world, Sam Ruthe is basically the best runner for his age in the whole world. And we can all run, right? Some people can't run. Respect to them. Shout out to them. Some people don't want to run. Sam Ruthe, we've all got, well, we don't all have two legs, but you get my drift. We're all humans, and we're all walking and running to just get around. Sam Ruthe from little old Aotearoa is the best in the world at running. 1 foot in front of the other. He's the best. Pia Vlok, she's a typical kind of Kiwi football superstar. She's bigger than everyone else. Right? We don't have issues with producing big athletes. But the thing we've talked about with women's football especially is we need some step-overs. We need a bit of pizzazz. We need a bit of flair. And Pia Vlok, in a lot of these games, like, I don't know if she's necessarily as tall as Grace Jale, but she would be
about the same, yeah.
One of the tallest players on the field at 17 years old. Like, she was basically, and that height is combined with her physicality. She's strong. She's ruthless. Those are Kiwi football fundamentals. We don't produce footballers who are scared to get into a tackle. That's Kiwi football. You need to be able to rip in, get your shoulder, get your hips, bump them off, run it straight even if you have to. But you get Pia Vlok in a tight space, she's moving that football like a wizardess, like a witch. Maybe she's just a witch. She's got little step overs, the tricks, the movement, and it's like there's a combination of pure Kiwi football and all the things we've wanted to see from Kiwi football. And I'm always amazed, like there's so many little moments in a game where she's up against the sideline and she does the little like pull back turn. Was it Cruyff turn or something like that?
Cruyff turns like a little chop behind one foot.
But
she's a little bit more about the like roll it under your sprigs and sneak out through those ones. She's got a few different tricks up her sleeve.
I think it might have been Porirua Park, and that's the beautiful thing when you get the moments of like just sheer elation when she scores a goal, but then also like Porirua Park, especially Jerry Collins Stadium, is like the gasp, like because I'm fairly confident the win at Jerry Collins Stadium last week, she was up against the sideline on the grandstand and she like did the drag back, but then you bump it behind you. I don't know what the specific name is.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. I did the exact same thing at summer soccer the other day on a short corner routine, and the guy didn't make the run and went out for a goal kick. But I think Pia Vlok was more successful.
No, but it's like she's not passing. She's just got a defender in front of her. She drags it back behind her, then she turns,
flick on and carry the run. Yeah. Right.
She has all of those tricks. So we're watching a young footballer who is big enough, physical enough, committed enough, gritty enough, strong enough, who also has some of the best individual skills I've ever seen for a female football player from Aotearoa. That is a heck of a combination. You know what
my favorite bit of it is? Yeah, it's a crazy combination to find that, because we've had other players who have been like really good at this age who are really good in one direction sort of thing. Like I think even someone like Millie Clegg, you can there's elements of it. Like she was just a brilliant finisher, made great runs through the channel, knew how to get to a shot and score. But by her own admission, she has talked about how like she's had to really work on her game, like her hold up game, back to goal. How do you link up with players around you, sort of thing? How do you go backwards to go forwards and stuff like that? And I think she also, big year coming up for her, by the way, because she's finally got out of the prison of North America, where all our good young players, male and female, but especially female, go to hit pause on their career and get stuck on the bench for a year or two. That seems to be what happens to everyone who goes there. So hopefully Pia Vlok doesn't follow.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, jar forbid that Pia Vlok goes to America to play football, because that will ruin her career for a year or two.
Yeah, for a year or two.
Until
Clegg's gotten out there and is going to Sweden, where for the first time in her career, she'll actually be playing for a team that isn't going to be getting a wooden spoon, because she's had like 4 clubs. 2 of them she only played 1 game for each. Western Sydney got injured. Racing Louisville never picked her, Americans. The other 2 times when she's actually had full seasons were with the Wellington Phoenix and with Halifax Tides in Canada, and she was wooden spooners both times. So, I mean, you look at her record, not scoring a lot of goals as a professional, including for the Football Ferns. We might as well add them in there too, because she doesn't win a lot of games for the Football Ferns. But also always seems to be playing on the losing team. So how's your striker meant to get service if the team is, half your passes are probably from kickoffs from having just conceded. So there are like examples of how that next step makes a big deal, and hopefully we will hopefully the examples of Millie Clegg, of Grace Wisniewski, of Macy Fraser, even Katie Bowen, her last year in the NWSL, just sat there on the bench all the time, and now she's playing for a Champions League club and Inter Milan. Like it's very annoying seeing that wasn't a sort of up and coming development player instance, but that's almost worse because you've got a proven player who was stuck on the bench. Yeah, the Americans aren't very good at developing our players. Interestingly, I think one of my theories before about that is because I think Americans just like that athleticism more than anything else. Pia Vlok actually kind of maybe has that, there might actually be something where she would have a bit more of a chance, but also like the players who are in those situations and then go somewhere else, do awesome somewhere else because they're great players who just weren't getting the opportunity. So I'm excited for what Clegg's going to do. Pia Vlok, we don't have to worry about that for at least another 6 months, maybe another year or two. I'm sure she'd want to, finish high school before she does anything else. And you can't actually sign with a foreign professional club until you turn 18. Millie Clegg had this problem herself. So I think Vlok will be around for at least one more season with the Phoenix, at least one more.
I want to watch her play for the Phoenix. There's nothing else. There's nowhere else I want Pia Vlok to be aside from Porirua Park and in Australia in a Phoenix jersey, because she is part of the most entertaining New Zealand sports team right now. So Pia Vlok, just chill out and let's be present with the gratitude that Pia Vlok's playing for the Knicks.
Yep, and I still see this all the time. Like, Elijah Justice playing awesome. So the assumption is, well, great, that's great. When's a bigger club going to sign him? Like, he doesn't need to go to a bigger club. He's doing well where he is. Like, let him, especially when you've only been there 6 months, like, let him settle. So a lot of those distances around, it's like, Joe Bell's in a pretty good spot. He doesn't need to go anywhere. Pia Vlok right now as a 17-year-old, like, yes, and down the line, she's going to have to leave the A-League to go to a better situation, to like a higher level of football. She's going to get that opportunity because the best A-League players do. Like, I think there's Central Coast top scorer, 20-year-old Australian Rasmussen, just signed with Juventus this morning. So like those options are very wide open if you dominate the A-League, but you want to get a couple of years in there doing that before you go, especially if you're that young. Like, there's no rush. She's so far, it's like she's so young, she's so far ahead. We don't have to worry about that. Frankly, the next one, which is always something that I sort of feel like, again, you don't need to rush these things, but with Pia Vlok, I actually think, no, I'm pretty sure she's ready. Like, I'm pretty sure she's one of the 23 best players. Like, Football Phone's call-up is the next thing to think about. I actually, earlier on in the season, I would have said, like, let's see her get through her first professional campaign. At this point, the level she's playing at, the amount that she's playing, the success of the team that she's playing in, the coach that she's playing for as well is part of this too. She's just got to be in that team, because I think she is one of the best players in those, in the position that she will be in. So all of that is crazy exciting stuff. But to get back to what I was originally going to say, the trick, the technique, the little the sneaky aspect of Vlok's game that I like the most, the way she sets up her shots. And we saw that on the weekend with all three of her goals, scored a hat trick, all from outside the box. Like, that is, I actually looked that up to see how often that happens. Obviously, no one's going to have an exact thing of all the times players in professional football have scored a hat trick with all three goals from outside the box. But just to get an idea of how rare that is, and it's pretty rare. Like, you don't see it very often. I think Wayne Rooney did it in his first game for Manchester United. He scored a hat trick against Fenerbahce with like a free kick and a couple outside the box sort of thing. Vlok did all three of hers from open play, by the way. And in a way also gave a big boost to Annalete, because Annalete is normally the goalkeeper for Newcastle Jets. She has made the most saves by a pretty big margin in the A-League this season, also conceded a lot of goals. So I don't think she maybe from the Australian perspective has gotten as much credit as I think she should for how well she is playing, because you look at Newcastle Jets and like, yeah, they've conceded 17 goals in 12 games, or she's conceded 17 goals in 12 games or something like that. And then they just concede 5 without her as a 17-year-old debutante. Kind of looks, well, first half she looked completely out of her depth, as Pia Vlok was just pinging them in the bottom corner and she couldn't get to them. Second half she actually played quite well, so there was a sort of a growth there. Maybe some good coaching word from Stephen Hoyle, Jets coach, at halftime there or something. But clearly that was a target. It's like they've got a vulnerable keeper playing her first game, 17 years old. 6 months older than Pia Vlok, by the way. So the thing is obviously just like get some shots away, putting him in the bottom corners and let's see her make some saves. There was Emma Pynenberg's goal where she got a big hand to it and couldn't keep it out. But like all of Vlok's goals, just bottom corner, perfect finishes. I'm not sure if Annalete would have got to one or two of those especially. But the way she's just able to be like, and yeah, the defense stood off for a bit too much, but it was also just like she can shift that ball, efficiency of touches, out in front. She scored, I think, 5 goals this season, 3 with her right foot and 2 with her left foot. So she can do it on either foot as well. This isn't normal level of finishing. We'd take a striker to be first choice Football Phone striker who can do that from inside the box, and she's doing it from outside the box.
Like, I was like the outside of the box stuff that's funky, but as you said, there were no defenders around it. So like, yeah, if you get me
Especially
outside the
first goal.
box, I'm going to whip it in. Like, I don't even play football and I can whip it in. So that's obviously not true. But the main thing there, and this is something that I think is often overlooked, because I did notice it earlier in the season, and there was like some of the Auckland FC goals that they are conceding. If you're watching the game, because oftentimes the highlights don't go this far back, and I can confirm that because I just watched the Phoenix women's highlights, they come from a turnover. So if Franny de Vries boosted up the left side of the field and Auckland FC turned the ball over, there is a hole in the defensive line. And there was one recently where, because they're outnumbered, Gerwood Wright gets beaten, and then Dan Hall has to step up, he gets beaten, then it's Nando by himself, and there's no one at the end of that chain to step up one more time.
This is how they conceded the winning goal on the weekend, which was the result on the weekend? They lost. Where Lachlan Brook is on attack and plays just a gentle ball across the goal, a silly pass where he's sort of obviously trying to get to his own shot, can't get to his shot, lays it off to someone else, but doesn't do it with enough fizz. Defender steps up and wins it because he's passing to Verstraete. Verstraete is trying to make a forward run, and therefore Verstraete's out of the play, counter-attack, goal, Auckland FC lose.
Pia Vlok's wide open at the top of the box because the Phoenix have just won the ball. Like, it's not her movement. It's not her being some sort of just witch on the edge of the box, and she's so dynamic that she's just moving space and manipulating space. The Phoenix, as they've done all season, they will push you off the ball. They will stand behind you, get a foot in front of you. They win the ball off the opposition. To me, that's the most fun thing about the Phoenix. And that's what made Auckland FC last season and patches this season so fun, is that they will bully you. The Phoenix women are bullying opposition teams. They win the ball, then they get it to where it needs to go quickly and efficiently. I've got two of the Pia Vlok
players
goals.
Who can capitalize.
Two of the Pia Vlok goals come from turnovers. I'm not sure about the other one, but it looks like it comes from a turnover as well. And so it's like, yes, Pia Vlok, she's in the right position. She finishes the goal, but she is part of a system. She is part of an excellent team who are so physical, so determined to win the ball, so organized that once they get the ball, they move the ball, score a goal. And I think that is something underrated with the Phoenix women, because they do it everywhere on the pitch, and it involves everyone else, including Pia Vlok, but not just Pia Vlok. Pia Vlok scores the hat-trick, and as I just said, I'm watching two of her goals definitely. I think all three come from turnovers. So it's her hat-trick. She's a 17-year-old who has scored a hat-trick. She deserves this honor of leading our podcast with Sam Ruthe. And also, she is part of an excellent system. And that system is putting her in positions to score the hat-trick, because Grace Jale is pushing you off the ball. Pynenberg is pushing you off the ball. Michaela Woods, she's going to hack you down. Brooke Nunn's going to hack you down. Like, this is a brutal Wellington Phoenix women's team. To me, that is the best thing that I love about the Wellington Phoenix. But respect to Sam Ruthe, 16-year-old doing crazy shit. Respect to Pia Vlok, 17-year-old doing crazy shit. It doesn't compare to Jess Kerr, in my mind, and how I felt. Because Jess Kerr did some crazy shit of her own. And it's like, in the context of that innings, it was mental. Because, like, before, in those finals, you're like looking, okay, who's going to be the player to stand up? Yeah, we'd expect a Maddie Green, a Brooke Halliday to stand up. But before Jess Kerr went crazy on the final over, it was Molly Penfold. I think she bowled 2 overs, 2 wickets, and 1 run in the middle stages of a Super Smash final against, I think they were 9-time champions at that point, They've won the last 2 finals. The Super Smash Dynasty, Molly Penfold was the player who I was thinking like, yeah, she's stood up. She has taken this game and she's going to win it for Auckland. Which is crazy because Molly Penfold hasn't been a very good Super Smash bowler in her career. As I wrote in the newsletter yesterday, the nichecase.substack.com. Shout out to everyone who has signed up to our Substack newsletter. You can sign up for free. You can sign up and as a paid subscriber as well, mainly to support our work, but also there's a few bonus things there every Monday and Thursday with the Dispatch. Prior to the season, Molly Penfold averaged over 30 in 4 consecutive seasons. This season, she took 7. She had taken less than 7 or less wickets in those 4 seasons, each of them. This season, she's on 17 wickets at 12.8. So she's gone from 7 or less wickets to 17. She's gone from averaging 30 and higher to averaging 12.8. That included 2 overs where she took 2 wickets and conceded 1 run. And she finished with 2 wickets at 3.5 RPO. And then Jess Kerr went crazy in the final over. Jess Kerr, I think she needed like 18 maybe, 16 or 18. And she hit 2 sixes in the final over. Before that, Rebecca Burns had hit the only 6 in the grand final. No Auckland player had hit a 6. Jess Kerr hit 2 in the final over as captain, as the best player in the game. She's the best bowler, not necessarily based on figures because Penfold was excellent, but if you're just saying, okay, who's the best player in this game, who's the best bowler, who's the best batter, Penfold was on the field, Green's on the field, Halliday's on the field. But the whole package of Jess Kerr, captain, excellent batting, excellent fielding, excellent bowling. She was the best player on the field. All of which by itself is pretty crazy. Not only, though, has Jess Kerr been part of, I think, all Super Smash championships that the Blaze have won to this point, she did that with no Amelia Kerr, no Sophie Devine, and even like Lee Kasparik's been a factor in recent years. Amelia Kerr was the captain and leading run scorer in the whole Super Smash for the last 2 championships. So they went back to back with Amelia Kerr as their captain and Amelia Kerr as the leading run scorer, and I don't know for sure, but she was probably one of the best bowlers. Sophie Devine has been involved, and I think a lot of people just assume, oh, Wellington Blaze Dynasty, it's all going to be Sophie Devine. She hasn't really done much in those last 2 championships. So the Blaze Dynasty went from, like, so many players have been involved and helped set that culture, but you can just basically look at it like Sophie Devine, Amelia Kerr, and now it's Jess Kerr. Because she took over the captaincy from Amelia Kerr, and the Wellington Blaze started the season with Amelia Kerr in their team, Elise Perry in their team, Maitland Brown in their team, 2 Aussies. Elise Perry chose to play Super Smash and not go to the WPL. None of them were in the grand final, right? So Wellington Blaze won their first 3 games in a row, but they also won their last 3 games with Jess Kerr as their captain. Like, it was some of the craziest shit that I've ever seen, and it's the type of stuff where you just can't help but get goosebumps. It's like obviously this is a moment. This is a championship. This is Jess Kerr stepping up as captain, as leader of the Wellington Blaze when it mattered most. She scored more runs with a higher average last year, though, in the Super Smash. Lower strike rate, but higher average, and 100 more runs. 326 runs to 219. 36.2 average, 24.3. Strike rate, 119, 129. She's also scored 100 runs or more with averages over 30 in the last 3 HBJ Shield seasons. All with strike rates in the 80s. So this is a culmination of, because the Wellington Blaze, they changed their coach as well. Lance Dry was their coach previously, and now Johnny Bassett-Graham has been their coach. Shout out to Rebecca Burns, Zara Jetley, Jess McFadyen, and the other players who have been hearty Georgia Plummer, hearty Wellingtonians in their Super Smash dynasty. And the thing here is that different coach, young players stepping in, not having the international players at this stage, like this tells us that the Wellington Blaze dynasty and culture is far bigger than any individual. This isn't Sophie Devine. It's not even Amelia Kerr, right? There's no coach about it. There's no other individual. Like maybe the other individual's Rebecca Burns, right? Maybe the other individual who leads the Super Smash dynasty for the Wellington Blaze is Georgia Plummer. Maybe it's Zara Jetley, who, like Jess Kerr, has developed into a good batter. Like people seem surprised to see Zara Jetley batting as high as she did in the Super Smash final. She's batting top 5 in HBJ Shield. She's batting top 5 in all Super Smash games. This is how players develop in the Wellington Blaze setup. But it's Jess Kerr who went crazy. It's Jess Kerr who won this game for Wellington as a leader, as a captain, as someone who, I mean, she's the best bowler and she's tied for the most wickets in HBJ Shield. Her and Zara Jetley are both on 14. And she's also averaging 32 with the bat in HBJ Shield. This isn't Super Smash, this is just HBJ Shield. So it was very impressive, and it was amazing to see Jess Kerr stand up, because she's kind of the, like, respectfully, she's the mother of the team. Because the other, like, the best, Amelia Kerr, Perry, Maitland Brown, they're not involved. Rebecca Burns, to me, she's more like a culture, like a team player. Like, she's there to make everyone laugh and kind of just show them the ropes and all that stuff. Georgia Plummer's a youngster. Zara Jetley's a youngster. Jess Kerr is the white fern. That's the thing. They only had 2 white ferns in this team, Jess Kerr, Georgia Plummer. And Auckland had Bree Illing, Molly Penfold, Maddie Green, Brooke Halliday, Izzy Gaze. Wow. But Jess Kerr, she's got the, like, talent, the White Ferns talent. Every Wellington Blaze player would be looking up to Jess Kerr. And somehow she won that game for the Wellington Blaze. It's one of the best things I've seen recently in Kiwi sport. To me, it puts Jess Kerr on a whole different level. Like, maybe she hasn't done what Amelia Kerr's done for New Zealand. But as far as Wellington Blaze, because Jess Kerr was just as involved in all the dynasty stuff before this, she is a Wellington Blaze legend for sure. She is as important Wellington Blaze player as anyone else. Sophie Devine included. Jess Kerr is in that kind of stratosphere, atmosphere, orbit as any other Wellington Blaze legend. And being a Wellington Blaze legend, when you are the cricketing dynasty team in New Zealand, is a pretty special place to be. So shout out to Jess Kerr. I don't know what else I can say about her performance. In summary, though, I will say she has been building to this moment, and she has been excellent in all formats for Wellington with bat and ball across like the last 3 or 4 seasons. So this feels, because even if she did that with Amelia Kerr in the team, it might not feel quite the same way, because Amelia Kerr's the leader, Amelia Kerr's the best player, Amelia Kerr's the captain. So it'll be like, yeah, Jess Kerr had the winning moment. Well, the Wellington Blaze are there because Amelia Kerr, like rah rah rah. That would be the perception. But it was Jess Kerr captain. Jess Kerr hit the winning runs from a crazy position. The only way they were going to win is if she hit a 6 or 2, and that's what she did. So shout out to Jess Kerr, Wellington Blaze legend, Kiwi sports legend, and she will be a certified White Ferns first 11 player, undoubtedly. She'll be batting 6 for the White Ferns. Like these are areas that Jess Kerr has put herself in with that performance.
Yeah, because like you say, it's not like she just did this out of the blue. She has built up to this. She was an excellent batter, like one of the best batters in Super Smash last year. And then maybe more, like potentially more because of like a slightly different role this year, maybe seen as maybe a bit more of a closer because they did have Kerr and Perry at the start of the season, at least. I don't know, didn't have to score as many runs, but as you point out, scored them faster when she did score them. And it was like, because I was watching that final and it was so clear, like you get into the last, before the last over, like the last 2 or 3 overs, it's like, well, it's going to have to be Jess Kerr. And what was cool about that was, first of all, like it's just the fact that there was a Kiwi player having sort of that pressure put upon them. Because obviously, like the pressure comes from being capable of delivering. It's like you're the one who's going to be able to hit a couple sixes and win this game. So it's kind of got to be you here. But especially through the fact that like she clearly owned that. Like she wanted that. She wanted to be the player, like not just because of the response, like, well, not because of the capability, but also because of the responsibility. And that is what you want when you have your international caliber players playing in the domestic leagues, is you want them to go there and be like, let me show you. Let me show you why I play for the White Ferns, why I'm a world T20 World Cup champion, And there was that because I think she was off strike for the first ball, and then they like snuck a single. I think, but definitely there was that one where she like smacks it out towards the boundary and they come back for a second run, which was never going to be a second run, where it might have been McFadgen, I can't remember who was at the other end, like runs herself out effectively to keep Jess Kerr on strike. So everyone knows what you got to do here. Maybe the throw should have gone to the keeper's end at that point, but you don't always have that, like, you don't always have that, just because it's easy to say that in the commentary box doesn't mean it was easy to do that on the field, It was like, I think she already hit a 6 by that point. They get her back on strike, sacrificing a wicket keeper. She has another 6. Then it's like you need 2 to win off the last 2 balls, and she smacks a 4. So done with a ball to spare. Yeah, that's awesome. That's so cool to see an athlete of that caliber delivering in such a way. Like that is championship or bust type situation. And she was like, yeah, we'll take the championship, please. Let me show you how it's done.
During that Molly Penfold spell, there was like a couple of overs where the other batter would get a single on the final ball, so Jess Kerr like wasn't facing any deliveries, and she was just so chill about it. Like she wasn't kicking up a fuss or anything. She was, I kind of felt like she was just waiting for her moment. And that added to why it was so special, because it was, she didn't necessarily step up to that level to win the game earlier. She just
she didn't chase it.
She stayed composed, stayed calm, and as the pressure increased, she just seemed to find the flow. But we need to find some flow with a little bit of mindfulness.
Yeah, where did I put it? Here we go. Here's my notepad. This is from Stanislav Lem, who is a Russian, I think, science fiction novelist, something along the line. He wrote Solaris, which is a great Andrei Tarkovsky movie, or was turned into a great movie. And he here said, or wrote, I assume, we have no need of other worlds. A single world, our own, suffices us, but we can't accept it for what it is.
So we only need our own single world, but we can't accept it for what it is.
Or we perhaps don't accept it. Might be better for the translation. I don't know. Wasn't working on the train. I don't speak very good Russian myself, but the implication, I guess, being that people are always for searching for something else, something more, something extra. Like, where's the I don't know. I guess world take that as a metaphor for whatever it is that people have to be seeking. When in fact, all you need is like right outside your window. It's right there. Like the things things evolve that way because those are the conditions that allow for that kind of evolution. You know, we are where we're supposed to be, and chasing beyond that, perhaps not only futile, but also just like completely unnecessary. Have some faith in your fellow man, you know?
Smells a lot like gratitude. Just be
A
grateful
lot
for
of
where you
these
are.
a lot of these mindfulnesses do come back to like it's kind of the ultimate superpower is just being a grateful person.
Because as soon as you're longing for something you don't have, or longing for a change, or longing for something else, there's no gratitude there. You're not like, oh, I'm so grateful for this moment, but I really wish, I'm so grateful for this moment, but if I only had this. You're being grateful, and then you're taking the gratitude away. So you're putting the food on the
Yeah.
table, and then you're taking the kai off the table. No, keep the food on the table. Just stay in gratitude and fill your belly. Have a good time. Do your best. Kia kaha. The Breakers are doing their best.
Are they?
Don't know if their
Kareem
best
Lopez
is.
is doing his best. I'll give him that.
Yeah, but he's. I don't know. It's at the point where the Breakers kind of. They're not very good. So all the Kareem Lopez chat is like NBA. Like the only
Yep.
interesting thing about the Breakers is like, oh, this Kareem Lopez guy is gonna do good. It's like, oh yeah, that move, he didn't do the right thing there because in the NBA it's like, well, we're here now, a bit of gratitude for Kareem Lopez being a New Zealand Breakers player who isn't exactly helping them win games. Like surely if
Oh
you're
no, he did against Melbourne. He basically single-handedly won them that game against Melbourne, which is maybe their best win of the season. And then, of course, they followed that up a couple of days later by losing to Tasmania in what was basically a must-win game against the team directly above them. So, yeah, he didn't help them so much in that one. But he did, credit where it's due. He scored, what, 31 points, I think, against the team with Shaylee and Finn Delaney. And there was absolutely tremendous, like incredible. Probably should be seen on the same, like we were talking about the young prodigies before with Sam Ruthe and Pia Vlok. Probably, if he was a New Zealander, definitely would be seen in that kind of same stratosphere. But he's not a New Zealander, so he's going to go and play for like the Brooklyn Nets next year, and we won't see him again. But he did at least give the Breakers some hope the other day, which they then, of course, lost with a poor fourth quarter against Tasmania, which involved a whole lot of Parker Jackson Cartwright, the guy everyone thinks is an incredible All-NBA guy, who can be an incredible All-NBA guy, but also tends to take a lot of dumb shots, particularly in fourth quarters, particularly late in shot clocks, particularly without passing the ball through the hands of his teammates, just dribbling, and then shoot up a contested three-pointer at the end of the clock, late in the game, when you're like 2 points down and you're the shortest guy on the field, so you're always contested three-pointers. Just so many of those instances throughout the season. It just makes it makes it hard to gather the same buzz that everyone else seems to have for PJC, He's so much better when he's passing the ball around.
I have some good news for yourself as a Dragons NRL geezer. The St George Illawara Dragons have signed another youngster from Aotearoa, Bailey Carmichael, who I think is originally from Te Puke, but he went to Rotorua Boys High School, played first 15 for Rotorua Boys High School, because as we know, most Kiwi-NRL juniors also play first 15 rugby, so there's nothing special or unique about NRL teams getting a player from first 15 rugby, which is relevant to the Dragons because they also have Rocco Walker, who generated a lot of headlines when the Dragons signed him from first 15 rugby in Auckland Grammar. But he's in the lower age groups. I think he's in the under 17s for the Dragons. But you look at how that was reported. It's like, oh, you love a bit of sensation chat. So it's like, oh, teen prodigy, rugby union prodigy from the powerhouse. There's so many rugby union powerhouse schools in Aotearoa, it's like kind of crazy to think that there's one or two. But Bailey Carmichael also played first 15 rugby. So this is something that I will get into with the Warriors. There's these things where, like, if you say that, if you reference that, that's a negative indicator. Because then I know you're not really tapped in. It's nothing against you, nothing personal. I just know that you're not really as into it, respectfully, as myself. And first 15 rugby and the amount of Kiwi-NRL juniors who come from first 15 rugby is definitely one of those things. But yes, the Dragons have gone from little to no Kiwi-NRL juniors below the NRL team because Christian Tuipulotu, Otahuhu Jr., Ben Murdoch-Masila, Otahuhu Jr., they were in the NRL tier last year. But the Dragons were doing no recruitment from Aotearoa, and to be honest, they're still doing no recruitment from Aotearoa. Well, they're doing a little bit of recruitment from Aotearoa because Setutu, where did he come from? The Warriors. So he was already in an NRL system. You've also got Demetrius Kalisamasi. He's I think he went to Howard College, Pakuranga Junior maybe. He was already with the Roosters, so they recruited him from another NRL system. And Bailey Carmichael was with the Knights. He's a big bopper. So you're getting a big bopper. And he is a mobile, aggressive big bopper from Te Puke, I believe. He played 3 seasons with the Knights. 1 season SG Ball. I think he had 2 seasons of under 21 Jersey Flag. I don't know if he's going to be in that Jersey Flag team for the Dragons or if he'll be pushing for New South Wales Cup selection. So shout out to the Dragons. You've got another Kiwi NRL junior. And while we're mentioning the Knights, Bailey Carmichael is another player who the Knights recruited from Aotearoa, who has then left the Knights. So we've had guys like Stafford To'a move to the Tigers and get much better as an NRL player. Simi Sasangi moved to the Raiders, got much better as an NRL player. Both of them left Auckland and went directly to the Knights, but have gone on to fulfill their potential at other teams. Leo Thompson's not a great example because he initially started with the Raiders coming out of Aotearoa, but of course, you do well with the Knights, you're going to leave the Knights. So that's what Leo Thompson's done. And Hami Loza is another one who I had in my 10 funky Kiwi-NRL juniors in Australia for 2026, because Hami Loza was recruited from Auckland by the Knights, and now he's gone to the Panthers. And now we've got Bailey Carmichael moving to the Dragons. So shout out to the Knights. They love Aotearoa. They love Kiwi-NRL juniors, but they do not necessarily develop them into good NRL players for the Knights. Instead, they just spend $1 bajillion on someone like Dylan Brown, which is all good because he's also very fun and very funky. Just rolling through my 10 funky Kiwi-NRL juniors. I did a deep dive on the website, so go read about that on the niche-cage.com. You can also read about the Wellington Phoenix woman. There's a lot of Warriors yarns on the website, a lot of cricket as well, so make sure you're reading the deep dives. Mason Barber, he's from Kaikoui, mainly a fullback with the Cowboys. Left Aotearoa, started dominating in Australia very quickly. Exactly the same recipe for Antonio Verhoeven coming out of Greymouth. Left Aotearoa, he was playing first 15 rugby and a bit of basketball for St Bede's College in Christchurch. Goes over to Australia, part of the Broncos system. He's dominating. These dudes, Verhoeven and Barber, both played for the Australian schoolboys within the first year, maybe 2 of being in Australia. Verhoeven was part of the Broncos NRL Q under-20s team, alongside Marley Igerson coming out of Tauranga. Otamotai Jr. loves a bit of surf life-saving. He is also with the Broncos, and he played under-19s. I don't think he was in the same, he might have been same team as Verhoeven, but he did the under-19, under-20 double for the Broncos, and he's a middle forward who plays a bit of edge forward who also does goal kicking. Then we have Siali Faiamani for the Gold Coast Titans. He was in the Warriors, having come through St. Peter's first 15, St. Peter's College in Auckland. He had a couple years with the Warriors, then he had a couple years with the Panthers. Now he's off to the Titans, where he's generating a bit of buzz for the Titans, maybe sneaking into the NRL team. So watch out for Siali Faiamani. Torino Jackson, also with the Gold Coast Titans. He is from Dunedin. Zingari Richmond Rugby Jr., who had some games for the South Island Scorpions. Then he went to Australia as part of the Titans system. And within his first 2 years, he was playing Queensland under-18s alongside Verhoeven. He's a middle forward. Francis Manulelua. So the Knights do a great recruitment from Aotearoa, but they also get players from other NRL teams to come into their system, which is, given how, what I've said about the Knights developing Kiwi-NRL juniors into NRL players, it's a little bit weird that they lose those players they recruit and develop in their system and then recruit other Kiwi-NRL juniors from other NRL teams into their system to play NRL. And Francis Manulelua seems like the most likely player in this list to debut in the NRL this year. Started with the Warriors, left school, he was playing King's College first 15, Papatoetoe Jr. Then he went to the Panthers, and then he got a better opportunity with the Knights, and he was he played a few games under 21s last year, but he was mainly playing 80 minutes as a New South Wales Cup edge forward. Then we got Jackson Stewart from Christchurch Hornby Jr., who has some of the craziest pedigree shit going on here. Aside from the Kiwi-NRL juniors who go to Australia and just make Australian rep teams straight away, which is a common theme because Aotearoa Rugby League is excellent. Jackson Stewart, 2024, he was a Harold Matthews Cup under-17 champion for the Warriors. I think he was also part of St Thomas of Canterbury, one of their championships. Next year, he wins the under-19 championship with the Roosters. So he's won an under-17 championship, an under-19 championship with two different NRL organisations, but also last year he played a lot of under-21 footy. He's a centre fullback. Talked about Hami Loza. We got Te Huranui Apanui Twiddle, otherwise known as Appa, because the Aussies cannot pronounce anything else with multiple syllables. He's a Turanga Waiwai Junior for the Eels, and he was their New South Wales Cup fullback while still being under 21s. I think he played a bit of NRL trials early last year as a number 6, which shows you all you need to know about his talent. And he is a very robust fullback, great instincts, good runner, good passer, does a bit of kicking. Watch out for Twiddle. Very interested to see what Twiddle does for the Eels this season. And of course, we got another Christchurch junior, KC Newton Whare, who won the Jersey Flegg Under-21 Championship with the Storm last year as a middle forward, starting prop in the grand final for the Under-21s team. So he's a very good junior in a very good Storm system. Can you put your Dragons cap on?
Never take it off.
Yeah. Well, you might. There's some other teams where you might take your cap off.
Sometimes I hide it in shame, but don't take it off.
I mean, Man United fan, various Dallas teams.
Hey, they're good now. 3 wins in a row.
Okay, right. Can you, like, if you're I don't want to be specific to the Dragons, but you're a fan of an NRL team, right? How would you feel if you had backups in every position with NRL experience?
I think I'd feel like a Warriors fan. Is that where this is going?
Yeah,
because I don't feel that with the Dragons last year. They didn't even have starters with like in their NRL experience, but they didn't have a full starting 13 with like impressive, let's say, NRL experience. So to get down to the backups, that's I could dream of it.
Well, don't get too specific with the Dragons. It's just your feeling. So you would love As a fan of an NRL
Absolutely.
team, you would love to have backups in every position with NRL experience, righto? In the modern NRL, like, how would you feel if at least half of your top 20 players can play multiple positions in the NRL?
Um, Depends how many of them are the son of the coach, but yeah, that sounds pretty handy.
Pretty useful. How would you feel if you had six halves who are either NRL halves or are on a direct pathway to NRL footy that you can name, that you know everything about, that have all shown some sort of NRL potential, even if they're a little bit younger? Because the Warriors, they got Jai Linane. He already had an NRL development contract before joining the Warriors as an 18, 19-year-old. You got a Jack Thompson, who's the youngest, who's already won a Harold Matthews Cup championship and has already played under 21 footy while being under 19s. You got a Jet Clear, you got a Luke Hanson, who come from a Penrith Panthers system, have both played in New South Wales Cup and State Championship Grand Finals, all of whom have shown some sort of NRL promise, not to mention Luke Metcalf or Tanner Boyd, solely focusing on the Aussies, but don't worry about the Aussie factor. How would you feel if your NRL team just had six halves who are all aligned, who your team has recruited from elsewhere, who are aligned with NRL performance things?
Well, you saw the Dragons half situation last season, so I don't even know if I need to answer that one. That one goes without saying.
That is quite funny because, like,
because they haven't really done anything about it this year either. Yeah,
maybe. If you know a bit about the Warriors, because I don't really know if I can call you like a hardcore fan if you're only talking about Jet Cleary.
yeah.
If you are thinking about the Warriors and you never ever mention Luke Hanson, you're showing your limitations. And I think Luke Hanson, if he was in a team like the Dragons, he'd be getting some hype. But Luke Hanson doesn't get much hype at the Warriors, even though he's the next up half below the four NRL halves, because you also got two more halves that can do a job in the NRL. So actually, with the Warriors, there's 8 halves who are either NRL halves right now or on the pathway to the NRL. But shout out to Luke Hanson. I did do some Luke Hanson stats yesterday in the newsletter, and the best thing, like, there is a drop off in kicking meters, but he doesn't need to do much kicking if you got Tanner Boyd in your reserve grade halves team, right? Not only was Luke Hanson the starting half in the New South Wales Cup Grand Final, State Championship Grand Final, while Jet Cleary was on the bench, Luke Hanson has also played more New South Wales Cup games than under 21s in his 2 years with the Warriors. So that's pretty useful if you're under 21s, but you're playing in a very good New South Wales Cup team for 2 years. Here are his try assists from last year from 2024 to 2025, 11 to 18, 66 meters per game to 81 meters per game, tackling percentage 90% to 97%. Luke Hanson, as an under 21s player in the Warriors, has won 25 of his 35 New South Wales Cup games. What more do you want? That's why, if you're not talking about Luke Hanson, I can't trust you. But I got one more thing to you, or two more. How would you feel if your NRL team had the top 2 completion rates in the whole NRL for the last 2 NRL seasons? How would that make you feel?
It sounds pretty safe. It sounds like a team you can, you can build an identity around that kind of thing. Which, yeah, I wouldn't mind it if my team were capable of doing that kind of thing.
Obviously, you're a rugby league guru, so how would you then feel if you can just imagine a game of rugby league? Your completion rates are the best they have been since at least 2013, right? The Warriors had 82% in 2024, 81% in 2025. In the years prior, since 2013, they never got above 80%. How would you feel if you had a team and a coach who could increase their completion rate and slowly but surely increase their offloading?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, isn't it? When you have a high completion rate, is that the thing you can criticize is, well, are you taking enough risks? But then if you're also a team that gets decent amounts of offloads, well, then you are taking those risks. You are getting the second phase play and working off the back of that. So yeah, that sounds like exactly what the formula ought to be. As long as the points are up, though. Yeah.
I was also thinking, because I haven't actually run the had a look at this recently, but I'm pretty sure the Warriors are one of the least penalized teams in the NRL as well. So that's a different thing. Like, how would you feel if your team made a habit of conceding the fewest penalties in the NRL? You'd feel pretty good. Like, I think a lot of people get lost in the detail. Detail is important, but if we're thinking and speaking generally, I feel pretty good about a team that has a high completion rate and concedes few penalties. Like, it just seems like a good rugby league thing to me. What do I know? Along with the halves, how would you feel if there was just a clear lineage of players in the system working towards the NRL? Because in the outside backs, out below the NRL top tier, I can go, okay, wingers and centres, Alofiana Khan-Pereira, Hazen, Malus, Sio Kelly, Kalis Putoko, Motu Pasakala, Brandon Norris. We can go further and further down the system, but they're all there aligned towards NRL. We can go the halves. We've got 4 other halves building towards the NRL. We can go on the forwards. You got your Vaimunga, Halasima, Laban, Stalwart Smith, Eddie Oramia, Toiava, Kalis Fatialofa, Jason Salalila, Rodney Tuipolotuvea, your Bishop Neils, your Lennox Tuilamas, all those dudes. Hookers, Wade Egan, Sam Healy, Makai Tafua, Jacob Aloa, Braylon Marsh, and another dude, Rene Frame, who was just casually playing Premier Men's Footy in Canterbury last year and now is in the Warriors under-19 squad. I mean, fullback. Terrible depth at fullback for the Warriors. They've got Shans Nickel Clockstar, Taintoa Piki, Geronimo Dore, Joseph Ratcliffe, and Jeremiah Lamana. Through the grades. Oh my God, Warriors, centre depth is terrible. Ali Leotoa, Rockaberry, Adam Pompey. 3 NRL centres right there, not to mention the outside backs I just listed earlier. How would you feel as a fan of an NRL team if you could just rattle off your team's depth in every position and feel pretty cool because you know that they're all right at rugby league?
Well, I guess I would feel somewhere along the lines of, like, if you, in a salary capped league, are able to develop your own talent, which is the cheapest way to do it, and you're able to position those players through a successful New South Wales Cup team where they learn winning habits as well as just learning, the fundamentals of the game. And those players are primed to contribute as soon as they get to first grade, when that opportunity happens to come around, because they've been building towards that with that in mind. I would feel like that's actually the best way to build a really competitive team, is if you are able to have that as like the baseline of your NRL squad. Everything else can fall into place from there,
Yeah, I haven't even mentioned Harry Inch yet. And guess what Harry Inch was doing last year? Playing Premier Men's Rugby in Canterbury. And now he's going to be playing under-21s, maybe New South Wales Cup. And I haven't also mentioned the fact that, okay, doom and gloom. The Warriors lose Mitchell Barnett and Luke Metcalf to injury. One's a representative forward, an Australian representative forward, New South Wales representative forward. The other was in the Dally M conversation. Doom and gloom. What happened after the Warriors lost those 2 players to injury? They stayed in the top 8. Sure, they dropped a few spots. They went from 3rd to 6th. Oh my gosh, how terrible were the Warriors without Luke Metcalf and Mitchell Barnett? heaven forbid you lose a couple spots on the ladder and stay in the finals mix. Because what happens, do you have a representative halfback?
Kyle Flanagan represents his family.
He does. Do you have a Australian forward, like a Kangaroos forward? Do you even have a Kiwis forward?
Was just Jaden Saw counting in that?
Who?
Jaden Saw?
Jaden Saw. Yeah, he's all right. He's all right. Okay, so what do you think would
He's
happen?
probably the best of them.
So first of all, you're not. We've already established this. You're not quite at the talent level of the Warriors, right? So let's put because I think for a lot of other NRL teams, starting halfback and one of your two best forwards, if you take those two players out, you're going to drop more spots than 3 than the Warriors did. But let's go Dragons because you don't necessarily have the same talent as the Warriors. Let's go, yep, Clint Gutherson, you're out of the team. And we'll go Damien Cook, you're out of the team. Do you think the Dragons are still going to be treading water in that situation?
Well, they wouldn't have been top 3 before that situation. I think Jaden Saw actually did miss a few games through injury, and they did start losing without him, so he might even fit that as well. But certainly Clint Gutherson without him would, big difference and big fall off.
Good. Thanks for your participation in just the Warriors brainstorm. Just some ideas I have about the Warriors that I don't necessarily see floating around other places where other people are, but I mean, people still talk about Roger Tuivasa-Sheck at fullback, so I don't know what we're doing here. Let's get into some Blackcaps. T20 World Cup. We'll get deeper into the preview on Thursday. Bonus podcast on Thursday comes out on Patreon. Patreon is the best way to support all of our work. We do offer an extra podcast every Thursday. And if you're part of the Patreon whānau, the full newsletters are copied into the Patreon page as well. So you don't need to pay anything on Substack if you're part of the Patreon whānau. It's just all there for you. And we will dive deeper into Blackcaps T20 World Cup stuff on Thursday as we have a few more days and a bit more time to go deep into it. Obviously, the Blackcaps were just taking the piss in this T20 series against India, and it's strange to see how many people think that that was like real Blackcaps. Now, it might be like, given how the Blackcaps performed at the last T20 World Cup, might be looking a bit foolish in a couple of days. But I'd counter that with the fact that Kane Williamson, Trent Boult, and Tim Southee aren't playing in this T20 World Cup, so the Blackcaps will do better. Because the Blackcaps, without those players, do better. Funny that. Again, it's just all these ideas that are just funny. They're just funny to me. So the Blackcaps were taking the piss in this warm-up series against India. What did Phenom do? 80 runs, strike rate of 210 in his one game. So that's all right. We still have the best opening combination is Phenom and Tim Seifert. Because again, if you're thinking Devon Conway's in the first 11, you're still thinking Roger Tuivasa-Sheck is the fullback for the Warriors. You're a bit delulu. Rachin Ravindra is the main kind of issue in the batting unit, because I think if we got Seifert and Phenom up top, and then we've got that middle order trio, but it's a quartet. Why is it a trio but it's a quartet? I'm curious to see your answer.
Why is it a trio but it's a quartet?
It's a middle order trio, but it's really a quartet.
It feels like that should be the other way around, and you're going to lead it towards it's a quartet, but it's actually a trio because Ravindra is not scoring any runs. But I guess you're saying because Mitchell Santner doesn't get included in those conversations, but actually is the Jess Kerr of men's T20 batting without having had his championship moment yet. that's coming up in the next tournament.
Yeah, you just kind of blew my mind, so I just keep moving, or else we'll get stuck in the mud
Captains,
there.
both of them, you know.
Yeah, true, true. Yes, it is. Okay, we got Rachin Ravindra, but then below Rachin Ravindra, we got Glenn Phillips, Daryl Mitchell, Mark Chapman, none of whom are as good at T20 batting as Mitchell Santner. All of which was listed in the paid section of our newsletter yesterday, where Glenn Phillips, I'll roll through these averages first. Phillips 31.4, Chapman 27.3. Oh no, that's a different time frame, because well, the fact that Santner's in the same realm, it does prove my point here. So Chapman 27.3, Mitchell 27.2, Santner 26.3. So they're all averaging over 26. Phillips, Chapman, and Mitchell all have strike rates of 141 point something. Santner's on 148. Since the start of 2025, let's sort this by averages. Highest averages. Santner is one of four batters averaging over 40. Allen, Seifert, and Robinson, who's not in the squad. So Santner he's one of three batters averaging over 40, and he has the second highest strike rate for the Blackcaps in this period. So, like, Mitchell Santner's batting it deserves to be in that middle order quartet discussion, but of course he's going to be captain, and he's going to be one of our best bowlers. So, if there's anything you want to take away from this, Mitchell Santner's batting is redonkulous, and against India, it was redonkulous. 105 runs, averaging 35, strike rate of 161. Ravindra is the main issue in that batting unit. You could say Robinson should be there, but I'm feeling pretty cozy, comfy with just giving Ravindra that chance based on his talent and his standing in New Zealand cricket. I think that's okay. It's aided by some solid strike rates. Like, Ravindra's averages aren't anything of note in T20 batting, but of course, it's all about strike rates in T20 batting. And Ravindra's strike rates are all right, especially in India. Here are his T20 strike rates year on year. 2021, 98. 2023, 134. Then 2024, 119. Last year, 151. This year, 142. So the first 3 years I mentioned were all below 140. The next 2 years have been over 140. And his career strike rates are solid. 135.4, 139.6 in the two T20 zones. Ravindra's a bit of an issue in the batting lineup, but I don't know if it's like that big a deal. Kind of because I trust his talent, but also as long as he's scoring quick runs in that position and salvaging in innings when he needs to, there's so much talent in that batting unit around him, I'm not too worried.
Yeah, and he will be scoring quick runs. It's not often that he, even in longer formats, it's not often that he hangs around too much without looking for a boundary here or there. And he, in this T20 team, once everyone is actually there, and we're actually picking a full strength 11 there. Once we get to that point, which pretty close to it in the fifth game against India, and the bowling lineup got destroyed, but we did see why Finn Allen is so useful. And if he and Seifert are putting on a platform, then that's what Ravindra is coming in after, to just sort of pick up a vibe and carry on. And I think he's very good at doing that kind of thing. And he's going to also know that he has protection behind him with a very good middle order that goes deeper than people realize, because of how effective Mitchell Santner has been, like, specifically since 2025. But he had some knocks before that as well. It's not just like he flicked a switch and suddenly went from nothing to being amazing. He's built it up and he's massively boosted his strike rate, but he's always been able to swing a bat, as can most of our lower order guys anyway. He's well protected in that lineup. He's going to have a good, he might be in the first over if Ellen just skies one. But ideally, even if that's just like the middling kind of average opening partnership with Allen and Seifert, is going to be scoring pretty quickly through that first power play. Whether they lose a wicket after 3 overs, whether they lose a wicket after 10 overs, it's not like he's going to have to come in and lift things like that. He's just going to come in and keep up what those guys are doing. So I like you, I trust the talent. And I think if you had lower strike rates around him, it would become more of an issue in this particular makeup of this team, what we expect to be their starting 11, their first 11 for these games. I don't think it's as much of an issue as it otherwise could have been. And he's a tournament player, so
Yeah, and the comparison between him and Williamson is interesting because Williamson had the higher average but the lower strike rate.
Yeah.
Ravindra's got the higher strike rate and the lower average. Right now, this tournament, I'd rather have the higher strike rate. So I'm trust the talent, and if Ravindra sucks in the T20 World Cup, I still think the Blackcaps can do very well. Let me put it that way. Guess who was the leading wicket taker in the series against India? No shock.
Jacob Duffy?
It's Jacob Duffy, who just continues to be awesome at T20 bowling. Hopefully Jacob Duffy can really surprise people, international audiences who know nothing about the Blackcaps, because international audiences know nothing about the Blackcaps because you just see it over and over again. Any cricketing media, they just do the Roger Tuivasa-Sheck fullback impersonation for the Blackcaps over and over again. The Crick Info, the headline was "Depleted New Zealand" because Michael Bracewell was injured. So Michael Bracewell might not be first 11, and New Zealand are depleted because Matt Henry might have paternity leave. These things might happen, but they may not happen. And at the end of that, they also said that the University Oval pitch in Dunedin was very flat. And I don't know if that's necessarily true because it's always raining in Dunedin and it's rather moist. And there's lots of seamers who love bowling in Dunedin. But what do I know? Once again, Jacob Duffy. He is... him and Lockie Ferguson are our best bowlers. Ferguson is battling some injury cloud, but he's being managed, so they'll be easing him in. He did play the one game and he did perform very well. 2 wickets at 10.2 RPO, which was the most economical for the Blackcaps in that series, aside from Christian Clark. Jacob Duffy, though, was also the other bowler below 11 RPO. And in T20 internationals, our 2 best bowlers ever are Lockie Ferguson and Jacob Duffy. Better than Bolt, better than Neesham, better than Southey, better than whoever else you want to put there. Lockie Ferguson and Jacob Duffy are the legends of our T20 group, and they're in the team. So we should feel pretty good about that. But also Duffy's playing a lot. Most overs in the series, 17.4. Most overs and wickets since the start of 2025. And he's also the leading wicket taker since the start of 2024. With very similar career stats. They have exactly the same strike rate, Lockie Ferguson and Jacob Duffy. Both in the 7s for RPO, both averaging less than 19. So that's Jacob Duffy. I was curious to see whether he could still be our best bowler in a series where India are just going to smash it around, because we're taking the piss. India are playing at home. They love smashing boundaries and not being good fielders. Aside from that one dude, what's his name? Rinku. He looks like he could play cricket for New Zealand. So I was curious, can Jacob Duffy keep it up? And he was our best bowler in the series. So feeling good about Duffy. But also the other two bowlers who took 5 wickets in the series were Mitchell Santner and Ish Sodhi, both of whom I think this will probably be their last combination in a T20 World Cup. This is their chance. T20 internationals in India, or versus India. Oh, the series, sorry. They both took 5 wickets. That's cool. 2025 onwards. Santner, 16 wickets averaging 33. Sodhi, 24 wickets averaging 20.3. Ish Sodhi has been just behind Jacob Duffy as far as the recent kind of wave of T20 bowling goes. In India, Santner averages 23.4. Sodhi averages 21.6. In T20 World Cup, Santner averages 18.7, Sodhi averages 17.5. In their career, Santner averages 23.3, Sodhi averages 22.8. How can you not feel good about having those two in your team? Oh, but it's a World Cup in India. They're good in India. They're good in T20 World Cups. They're good in their career, and Sodhi most notably has been pretty good recently. Feeling good.
They've also been good in the T20 World Cup in India before together. Like I think 2016, 2017, something like that. They have, because of course every second tournament is in India because India decide. They've literally done this before. This isn't even new for them. They have the experience and they have the form on their side, and there are 2 best ever T20 international era spinners. Like I got no stress about that. Particularly, I mean, Bracewell, Phillips, Phillips will certainly be in the team. Bracewell may or may not be in the team, but he'll probably play some games during the thing. Those guys can give you some overs as well as as extra spin options for Ravindra potentially if you want the left armer. We're pretty well stocked. That was one of the things that we talked about with the ODI series win in India and then the Test series win in India last time we went over there, and how many different spinners we used in successful tours there. These guys they might not be the strike bowlers, but that's fine because like Lockie Ferguson's your strike bowler, Jacob Duffy's your strike bowler, Matt Henry's your strike bowler. The spinners will get the job done at least.
And they have that experience because experience is very important. That's why it's an older squad. That's why there's no age limit on playing for the Blackcaps, which is another very interesting, it's a funny concept to some people who talk and write about sport, who are trying to age players out of Blackcaps cricket. This isn't like an under 30s
But what's
team.
the team going to be like in 3 years? I don't know. The T20 World Cup is in 3 days, so forget about 3 years. Pick your best team.
Mitchell Santner and Michael Bracewell have both batted in 12 innings since the start of 2025. Santner's averaging 40 with a strike rate of 175. Bracewell's averaging 19.5 with a strike rate of 140. Maybe Mitchell Santner is just there ahead of Michael Bracewell as a batter who bowls spin. You don't need both. Maybe you just have Santner, Bracewell's chilling as a backup. We've also had news that Ben Sears has been called into that travelling reserve spot for the Blackcaps, which I think I predicted last week. So that's good.
I think he did.
To see, which is sensible. He's the next best T20 bowler. I might even say he's a better T20 bowler than Kyle Jamieson. And his Super Smash form warranted that selection. I don't think Zach Fox is in the World Cup squad, so I think I do agree with having Ben Sears in there ahead of Zach Fox. Zach Fox, who has been all right at batting, but Ben Sears deserves that spot. Domestic cricket moves into Ford Trophy and the HBJ Shield weekend rotation. Yes. So Ford Trophy is being played on Wednesday, and we got the weekly HBJ series, and there's another games of Ford Trophy on this weekend. Probably be talking some Ford Trophy on our bonus podcast on Thursday. So watch out for that, where we do always talk a lot of cricket in the bonus podcast available on Patreon. Just also Super Smash though, because Northern Brave did win the men's Super Smash. And they have won, I think they've won 3 of the last 5, which is smells a bit like the dynasty. I think it was last Thursday's newsletter. I wrote how this is their 2 of the last, so they've won 3 of the last 5, but the first 2, there was always some sort of big Donny Blackcap. Mitchell Santner's played in a couple, Tim Seifert, Tim Southey, Colin de Grandhomme, Neil Wagner. Those dudes have always been involved in Super Smash Grand Finals success for Northern. So like the Wellington Blaze, without winning without some of their best players and Jess Kerr stepping up, Northern Brave have won with no like certified Blackcaps right now in their team against the Canterbury team that is a losing final dynasty. So shout out to them. They have their own dynasty going on. Can you guess the 3 players who have played in all 3 grand final wins for the Northern Brave over the past few years?
Scott Kugelheim.
Bang.
Henry Cooper?
Bang.
I wasn't sure about that one, whether he would have been playing T20 in the other one. And did Joe Carter play this? I can't. Joe Carter?
No.
Yeah,
It's,
didn't. Yeah,
Nik Clark.
Nik Clark. Well, there you go.
So there's 3 who have played in all 3. Nik Clark, Henry Cooper, Scott Kugelheim. Nik Clark scored 71 runs with a strike rate of 209 in the first grand final win. Then he had 38 runs at a strike rate of 165, and this game he had 33 runs at a strike rate of 137. Nik Clark is not a first 11 player in their other formats. He was, but he has been struggling, especially for Trophy. He doesn't play a lot of Plunkett Shield, but his T20 batting is kind of undeniable at this point. I'm curious if he is on the Blackcaps radar, given what he does for a winning Northern Brave team, batting at the top of the order. Then we've got 3 more players who have played in the last 2 grand final wins for the Northern Brave. Joe Carter was one of them. And Joe Carter's actually been fantastic as well in these grand final wins. Damn, I didn't type it out. But he has... Just trying to find if I did type this out somewhere. He's been awesome. So shout out Joe Carter. He is like as important a Northern Brave T20 player in these grand finals as anyone else. So shout out to him. He is one of them who have played in the last 2 grand final wins. Who are the other 2 players?
Surely Brett Hampton.
Yes.
And then I would guess on top of that, I'm going to be silly and say Tim Pringle.
It's not silly at all. Tim Pringle.
Yeah. Really? Hey.
So Joe Carter, he's an undercover legend. And lest we forget, RIP the Anzacs, shout out to the Anzacs. BJ Watling is the coach. And what BJ Watling, in his first 2 seasons, I think, he's won the Plunkett Shield and the Super Smash. All these players play, aside from Nik Clark, all these players play Plunkett Shield. And Joe Carter's an all-format player as well. So, like, Jet Raval, crucial for Plunkett Shield success. Barrett Popley, crucial for Plunkett Shield success. Joe Carter, crucial in both formats. But I am fretting out a bit, so I did interrupt myself to say BJ Watling, very successful start to his coaching career at Northern Districts, which seems notable. Also notable is the fact that Tim Pringle has played T20 World Cups for the Netherlands and won 2 Super Smash championships with the Northern Brave. So, like, how can you think that Tim Pringle sucks if he is already an international T20 spinner with the Netherlands, not at the World Cup though, and his success in the Super Smash is undeniable. Him and Rohit Gulati are also the leading wicket takers in Plunkett Shield. And we just saw Jaden Lennox impress in India as a lefty spinner. Gulati and Pringle are excellent Plunkett Shield. Pringle has multiple Super Smash championships with Northern, and Ben Lockrose, Otago lefty, was the leading wicket taker of all spinners, I think, in the Super Smash. And then there's Brett Hampton, who seems like he should be a really good T20 player, but it's all kind of come together more recently, though. And that probably coincides with him opening the batting. Like, last 5 seasons, this was his first season with 200 plus runs. And he hasn't scored a lot of runs with a high strike rate very often in the Super Smash, which seems ridiculous, but if he's not doing it in T20s, he's smashing sixes in the Plunkett Shield and the Ford Trophy, which is all good because that's Brett Hampton. And I think he was the Northern Braves' best player in that grand final because he had a massive monster knock and took the most wickets in that grand final, I believe. Let me double check. Like, that Cartney Clark Brett Hampton opening combination was mental. 55 runs and 3 wickets in a grand final.
Kevin hit his first ball for 6 as well.
Yeah. Given there's no age limit on the Blackcaps, I wouldn't be surprised if Brett Hampton's in the Blackcaps sometime soon, especially T20 cricket, given what he has done, and he deserves that type of salute. Shout out to Matt Fisher. He was solid throughout the Super Smash, didn't play the last few games though, and was then basically overtaken by Zach Gibson, who finished with 7 wickets at 15. Like, Christian Clark was their worst bowler. Their recent Blackcap was the worst bowler in that Northern team. So, and that's right, because I don't think T20 is his best format, but that shows what the options that Northern have, like all Kiwi cricket pipeline depth matters. But also Zach Gibson was fantastic. Matt Fisher was solid throughout. You're always getting good overs from Brett Hampton. Tim Pringle's one of the best T20 spinners in Aotearoa. And of course their batting unit, because I haven't mentioned Robbie O'Donnell, who has one of the highest T20 batting averages for New Zealanders. And he's a winner. Like, he's an excellent T20 batter, but he took over from Jeet Raval as captain. So Jeet Raval was captain in the first 2 championships, and then Rob O'Donnell came in. I think he moved to Northern ahead of last season, and he was highly influential throughout the Super Smash for Northern as a batter, but also as a captain. And one player I haven't mentioned yet is Xavier Bell, the young phenom who showed his potential. He wasn't dominant, but he did flash his potential as a highly celebrated youngster. But the beautiful thing about the Kiwi cricket stuff is we got players who get better at all levels. The older players get better, the middle tier players get better, the younger players get better. You've got someone like Xavier Bell, who everyone knows about heading into the season. He didn't do much in Ford Trophy and only hit 150 plus score in the Super Smash, but he came in with a lot of buzz, a lot of hype. And at the same time as you got someone like Xavier Bell, then you also have someone like Lockie Harper for Canterbury, who's an older player, mid to late 20s. No one knew who Lockie Harper was outside of Canterbury before Super Smash. Right, so we got these, this is the thing, there's so many pieces to the jigsaw where you got youngsters who they might play in all 3 formats and do pretty well. That's how, like a Reece Maru, right? Well, he's not really all format just right now. Maybe a Muhammad Abbas, he's an all format player. Will O'Rourke, a Zach Folks, like Mitch Hay, those type of players get to where they've gotten by really good mahi across the formats. But then we've got someone like Samuel Morgan, who has only played Super Smash and only has 250s this season. Oscar Jackson wasn't playing the other formats for Wellington. He did very well in his few games of Super Smash. Canterbury. So many bowlers. so many bowlers across their formats that Lockie Harper only played Super Smash. And he was one of their best players all round, like Cole McConchie, Chad Bowes, Tom Latham, Henry Nicholls, and so on. But Lockie Harper was an unknown when he made his Super Smash debut, and he did his job for a good team. So there's all these factors at play in the New Zealand cricket setup where it's like, no matter your age, no matter what your background is, celebrated youngster, decorated representative player, all that stuff, none of that really matters when you're in the domestic arena, because guys are stepping up to domestic cricket from all backgrounds and they all look impressive. Like Xavier Bell, you watch him bat and you're like, I see why this dude was so hyped. I watched Samuel Morgan bat, and it's my first time watching him bat. And like, yes, there's stories about him scoring a lot of runs, but the way he batted, nothing could prepare you for that. Nothing could prepare me for seeing Lachlan Harper smash sixes and bowl pretty well. Right, like we need to keep an open mind about all Blackcaps pipeline matters, because we've seen older players do their job for the Blackcaps, Michael Ray, Jaden Lennox. We've seen younger players immediately perform for the Blackcaps, Reece Mariu, Will O'Rourke, Muhammad Abbas, Zach Folks, Mitch Hay. We've seen all the decorated youngsters do something, but we've also seen unknowns do something. So you just have to be open to whoever's scoring runs, whoever's taking wickets, and not like poo-poo anything because, nah, he's too old. Nah, he didn't play New Zealand under-19s or anything else. Like, we just keep an open mind about the Blackcaps development pipeline is all I want to say. But I also want to say the Warriors. There's two versions of the Warriors. Pre-pandemic, post-pandemic. Middle of the pandemic wasn't the Warriors. That was not the Warriors. That was a rugby league team with the name of the Warriors. Like the NRLW team was just full of random Australian players, right? Reece Walsh moved to the Warriors because he didn't have to leave Southeast Queensland. Players joined the Warriors because they were based in Australia. Nothing about the pandemic was Warriors. They just had to survive. So it's pre-pandemic, it's post-pandemic. It's pre-pandemic, it's to Andy's era. The Wellington Phoenix, the men's team are pre-pandemic, the women's team are post-pandemic, as far as like what I feel when I'm watching them. The Wellington Phoenix men, they can lose any game, right? Highly inconsistent. It never feels like they're dominating their opposition, even when they're playing well. And you never know. They could just concede a couple goals early and it's game over. They could score a couple of goals early and it's not game over. That's everything I felt when I watched the Warriors pre-pandemic. They could lose a game from anywhere. They might not even show up. They might play well. You never know. There's that feeling of just being like, righto, I'm in my couch. Got to be ready for whatever. Post-pandemic Warriors, I have an expectation. I am anticipating this game of rugby league because I expect the Warriors to play well. We've talked about the Phoenix woman, so maybe you can continue this if you want, but this is more about the men where they're 2-0 up and they find a way to get a draw. Now again, I said it about Auckland FC last week, so I have to say it for Wellington Phoenix this week. It was just a draw. Sure, it feels like a loss, but it was just a draw. I do like chopping and changing between fandoms for these two teams, but got to keep it real. It was just a draw. But it felt like the old Warriors, where you're playing pretty well, but you don't win. And you don't win because you drop the ball. You don't win because you give some silly penalties away. You don't win because you get a silly sin bin. You don't win because the sporting deities don't want you to win because you've done something wrong. Is that Is that fair? I think it's pretty fair for the woman.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably fair both ways. Keeping in mind as well that the pre-pandemic Warriors also had the ability to win a game from 20 points down, from, with at halftime or something like that. Like they could always, every now and then, not as often as I think people have the reputation for them doing that, but just enough to keep it in mind. But they'd also lose games from the same situation just as much. And that Phoenix game Friday night was absolutely a giveaway. They should have been in control, but they're just not the type of team that feels like they're in control with the scoreboard says they're in control. And then even, a couple very, very silly goals to concede, but then it's like, even after that, they won a penalty and missed it. Like, they should have still won 3-2. Mandrake James misses a penalty at the not even a good penalty take.
Mandrake, hold on. Mandrake, bruh. When the graphic comes up on the screen that your last penalty went mid-right and you do the same penalty again, that's not good enough, bruh. It's not good enough for any player. Definitely not good enough for a centre-back taking penalties.
I'm a big fan of centre-backs taking penalties because usually they just run up and smash it. And then, if you ping that thing hard enough and on target, it's actually incredibly hard to save. And Mandrake, a big man centre-back, just tries to place it and doesn't place it. Like, just hits it within goalkeeper range gently. It was
in the same spot as previous penalty was.
Not a good penalty. Which I think he did score, but
but the
goalkeepers,
the goalkeepers
they're scouting you now. They know you're going to go.
If you got 5 or 6 penalties available, I don't mind if you go that place again, because if you got 5 or 6 penalties you've done in the A-League, you've probably hit some around the goal. You're not going all the same spot. Yeah,
there's only so many places you can kick it.
You can't do both your penalties in the same spot. That doesn't work.
Particularly as an unusual penalty taker. Like, as a centre-back doing that is not what you expect. I'm guessing I think he said that because he took one earlier in the season. He did score it. And there'd been a previous one where he didn't take it because he said Rami Najeri needed the confidence and they were already winning, so he let him have it. I mean, the Wellington Phoenix needed the confidence. They needed to score that goal. They needed to get that win back out in their 500th game. And he, not a good moment for him. I was actually hoping Bill Tuiloma would take it because A, I think he would smash it and probably score it. B, he actually is really good at hitting free kicks, so he's probably good at penalties. C, big game player because he's played in big games overseas. And D, his mistake led to the equalizer. His terrible mistake, where you can look at other things like, was LB Kelly healed in the right position? Did Isaac Hughes drop off to give him an option early enough? Sure. Was there a midfielder there and looking for the ball at the right time, and that's why he took his eye off, and because that first option was blah blah blah. Yeah, sure, always little things, but he also took his eye off the ball, bounced off his shit into a striker. You don't need to pass the blame any deeper than that, and Billy T knows that himself. You could see that from his reaction. And I thought up until that point, I do think he's a little bit culpable for the offside, or the lack of an offside for the first goal as well. But definitely in the first half, I thought he was spectacular in that game. He was so good. Not really having to do a whole lot defensively, but just his passing game took the Phoenix to just a whole other realm with the way he would split the ball between the press, two strikers running onto him, and he just hits it between them to a midfielder. It's this is the type of stuff we saw them trying to do at the start of the season, haven't really been able to maintain it. Now they're back to that, bouncing the ball 1-2 touches quickly through the midfield, because they had a centre back who can play at such a so confidently and so accurate. Those were crisp, dead accurate passes right to the foot, right, leading the guy into if the pressure's over your left shoulder, you need to turn to your right shoulder. The pass is going to assist you in being able to make that turn, those types of things. And then, of course, he made a mistake at the end, and so it kind of ruined a lot of the good work. But I do think that is something that's on the whole, and I would suspect, because my big sort of Lockie Ferguson-esque worry with Will Tuiloma is that he has in recent times struggled when he has got rare opportunities to play sort of run of games. He usually just gets injured, and that's not a surprise because if you don't play a lot and then suddenly playing a lot, obviously you're at risk of an injury. And I think that like a match fitness probably came into that. Like I was a little bit surprised he was given a full 90 playing in a high line against a team that was pressing him a lot. I wondered if maybe he'd get subbed sort of 60, 70 minutes in just because he hasn't done that kind of distance for a while. And perhaps he should have been in hindsight, but hindsight's a cruel one. But he's going to be making those passes every game he's playing for the Wellington Phoenix. And that is something, even though the result in that one game seems to add to a lot of sort of misery of recent times, there is an overwhelming positive that comes out of that game, which is the way in which Bill Tuiloma unlocks another level to the Wellington Phoenix in position because of how well he can start those moves.
Especially with Mandraker, because they are very good passes, like mid-range passes, long-range passes, and it's so useful for the Phoenix who love all the tricky stuff, the short passes, the layoffs and stuff. Like I did enjoy the balance offered by the centre backs as far as passing goes. Unfortunately, they both made mistakes and lost the game, but it also felt like the whole team just dropped off going deeper into that second half. Well,
the game definitely changed when who were they playing? Melbourne City when they went to their bench and brought on just like replenished their press by bringing on some faster players. And you could see that with a couple of those instances, including the mistake for Tuiloma with the equalizing goal, where it's like, it's the same. He's being shown the same picture as he experienced in the first half, but sped up. It's on fast forward now because they've got fresh players who are running at him faster than the fresh players or than the unfresh players who started the game. And maybe that was an adjustment that their opponents made that the Phoenix didn't sort of retaliate to in time. But again, like these are lessons learned because this is another like fresh or relative, not quite a fresh back three, because I think Tuiloma's come on and played with Hughes and Mandraker in that combination with Tuiloma in the middle a couple times off the bench. But I mean, they had a different goalkeeper this time because Albie Kelly-Hield gets the opportunity to come in here and play. So that back three plus goalkeeper combination, which when you're talking about playing through the press and build, like the goalkeeper is a very big part of that. He's an important option as your out option or maybe as the instigator, depending on how you want to set it up. So from that sort of quartet range, that is another fresh combination for the Phoenix as well. And I think that's also, they've had a lot of those, right? 3 different goalkeepers, a lot of different players playing in the back three. And these are the kind of adjustments ideally you're making in preseason, not halfway through the season, but just the state of where they are. This is what they got to do, And those are the kind of mistakes that maybe you make in the first game together and you don't make in the third or fourth game, hopefully.
Was McCarron injured?
No, he just got rotated back around.
See, I don't know if you need to be just rotating for the sake of rotating when you're a mediocre team trying to get into finals footy. Like, just do all you can to win some games and...
Well, I think that's what they'll... Like, when I say rotated, I don't think he's rotated in a, like, you don't play this week, you play next week sort of thing. I guess you'd say dropped, but I don't think he was dropped in a way where it's just like, you're playing terribly, we're going to need to get you out of here. It was more like Albie Kelly-Hield is probably better and more advanced than you at this stage of his career and had a bunch of games last year and was in the wrong place at the wrong time to miss out on the opportunity when McCarron came in the first place. McCarron played well enough to hold that for a month, but Kelly-Hield apparently, training the house down or whatever in the background and just kind of overtaken him again without McCarron having to be bad, but just, you know how these things work.
I know how they work, but those are losing things. And this is the conversation we've had about the Phoenix all season, where Chiefy loves being cute. He loves he loves tinkering. He loves just trying to do the hardest shit, and they lose. So I don't want to get into this big debate with you again, but to me, these are losing things that are hindering their season. Like, McCarron's doing the job for you. Just leave him in the job. You talked about the combinations. Have a settled combination. How about that? Speaking of goalies, the one and only Ollie Sale returning to Perth. We had the goalkeeper change. I didn't watch this game, so I'll be curious to hear your thoughts. I will say, though, are these players for Perth all have some connection to Aotearoa? Sam Sutton, Scott Wooden, Brian Kaltuck, Nicholas Pennington, I think Taggart played for the Phoenix, and Kolakovsky.
Not Taggart, but Kolakovsky did.
Well,
which is a lot. Oh, and Adam Griffiths, their coach, was the assistant to Giancarlo Italiano for the previous couple of years as well. He was the defensive maestro. He's the lion's mane fellow.
Yeah. Shout out to Lion's Mane Mushroom, those. If anyone wants to give me some free Lion's Mane mushrooms, we'll take them. I must just recognize Adam Taggart from so much A-League viewing, because I recognize his name, but I did think he played for the Phoenix, but obviously not. Same with Lucas Moragas. See him play a few times. I'm like, I know that guy.
Yeah, he had a year starting ahead of Sam Sutton at the Phoenix.
So Auckland FC lose to Perth. Big change in goal. Did Ollie Sale, should I just be viewing Ollie Sale as their starting goalkeeper moving forward? Forget everything I said about him previously. Forget everything I've said about Michael Veld. Ollie Sale's our main man. He'll kick the ball out on the full a couple of times a game, and that's just how we're going to look moving forward.
Well, no, because you said you didn't watch the game. You obviously didn't watch the game because after about 60 minutes of not really doing much, they were 1-0 up at the time. He hadn't made one or two saves, but nothing too difficult. The best save he made was from an offside, so it wouldn't have counted. Lines up a goal kick. Slips as he kicks the goal kick, rolls over his knee, busts a tendon in his knee, needs surgery, out for the season. So it's
the
ultimate irony as well that it happened to Ollie Sale taking a goal kick after
against Perth. Respect Ollie Sale. Don't want to giggle at an injury, but sounds like just divine order.
Well, it was funny because he's behind the Perth sort of active fans often will sit at one end or the other, and so I think that there was quite a hefty home contingent directly behind him who all started cheering when he slipped and went down injured. And then 2 minutes later, he's being carried off in the stretcher and they were standing up, clapping and applauding him. It's like, oh, whoops. It was funny until we realized it was serious, which I don't want to, but I have to reiterate, has no effect on the All Whites World Cup squad. He was not going to be the number 3 guy. If you're going to pick an experienced type backup, then Nik Tzanev is probably in a higher scenario there. But you shouldn't do that anyway because you've got 2 phenomenal good under 23s goalkeepers in Kay Sims and Henry Gray, and one of them should get the spot, and Kay Sims most recently did get the spot. They're both playing at a higher level than the A-League. Well, Gray touch and go. He's starting games in League 2, but he is affiliated to a championship club pushing for Premier League promotion, who were in the Premier League last year with Ipswich. Kay Sims playing games for a team in Sweden that qualified for European competition. There's no need to pick a worse player to get an extra veteran. And Joe Bell, vice captain of Viking FK, he has captained the All Whites, let alone whatever form of presence Tommy Smith will have with this team. I'm guessing not in a playing capacity because he actually has barely played for Braintree Town. He's always injured. But I'm sure he'll be in there as some kind of assistant coach because they love the leadership he brings. You don't need a goalkeeper to add that. You've got enough of that. The thing is fine. Michael Veld wasn't really in contention either. But I don't think his reputation, his stocks were improved in an Auckland FC situation where he gets dropped. And then he gets subbed on because the other guy who gets dropped gets injured, and then he concedes 2 goals to lose 2-1 from what was a winning situation when he went on. So neither of them were really his fault. I thought he could have stayed bigger for the first one. The second was just a banger from outside the box. You can't do much about that if you're getting counter-attacked and no one's able to get back. The bigger loss, arguably, Nando Peineke went off with what looked like a hamstring issue in the first half. Hopefully that's nothing serious, but it's just, again, it's like this. Speaking of Wellington Phoenix's tinkerings, which they've had a lot of injuries, a lot of enforced tinkerings, but yes, absolutely. Like Chiefy's biggest weakness is that he overcomplicates things all the time. He's making changes for the sake of changes constantly, and he did some more of that on the weekend. Auckland FC do not. Steve Corica does not make changes for the sake of changes, but he has a few of them enforced upon him, particularly in his back line, and that's not going to be any better next week now that Nando Peinecker is hopefully not injured, but he was injured enough to not be able to finish that game, and Ollie Sale is going to be done for the term, and I will be interested to see what happens beneath that, because Joe Knowles would be their next up goalkeeper, who's former Eastern Suburbs guy, sort of 21, 22-year-old, probably Kiwi keeper, played New Zealand under 20s. But he's barely played for the reserve teams, and I think he has actually been injured himself for a while. So if he is also unavailable, you start to dip down to, I'm not sure if they'd be allowed to pick the players from like Blake Callanan or Oscar Mason from their OFC team. I'm not sure if they'd be allowed to pick them or not. Maybe Callanan, because I think he has a youth contract. But Callanan is like maybe 19-year-old Kiwi keeper. And if it's not them, you're probably dipping down to like Eli Jones or someone who is 18, maybe. And I think it's awesome. I watched him a few times in the National League. I think it's fantastic. But like he's about the same age as Eamon McCarron, so that'd be interesting if Auckland FC find themselves in a Wellington Phoenix situation there, having to dip that deeply.
2 home games this weekend. Wellington at home versus Victory on Friday. Auckland are at home against Sydney FC on Saturday. And the Phoenix women are away to Central Coast. No. That's March 25th. What? Do they have a break or something? Or what's happening here?
It's possible they have a bye. I'll check that wherever I put my phone. Off the back of their third straight win.
They're at home to Perth Glory doubleheader at the Cake Tin, otherwise known as Matt Henry Stadium. Should be playing in Porirua. What are we doing at the Cake Tin, Matt Henry Stadium? Who cares? Let's move on. Finish with some flying Kiwis. Just roll through them very quickly. Can you give me a hard and fast wrap-up? You mentioned Nik Tzanev. What's the latest with Nik Tzanev?
Well, just on the Wellington Phoenix women, 3 wins in a row. Home against Perth Glory, then home against Central Coast. Like, 3 in a row already ties the club record for consecutive wins. They've already got more points from away games this season than they've ever done before. They could easily push that to 5. Central Coast just sold their best striker, and Perth Glory, that's a distance derby game. That's never easy to do, Exciting there. There's interesting. Should be a couple big crowds at Jerry Collins Stadium, hopefully. I did mention Nik Tzanev. He has managed to wriggle out of his contract with Newport County in League Two, where he got dropped to be the second choice goalkeeper for the team that is last in the 4th division. Has managed to get himself a gig for the rest of this season after an early release at Huddersfield Town, who are pushing for playoffs/promotion from League One, who were actually a Premier League team 6 years ago. So they've obviously had a bit of a fall off, but trying to work their way back up. He's probably going to be the 3rd choice goalkeeper there. You don't go from being the backup at a 4th tier to being a starter at a 3rd tier. He's probably going to a worse situation for the rest of the thing, but with 2 very good keepers ahead of him, get a bit of confidence back, work hard, blah, 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 make some contacts, whatever. So nice stuff there. But the 2 big deals from the late sort of transfer window, Jessie Randall leaving Auckland FC, Millie Clegg, mentioned her before, going to Sweden. Those are the big exciting ones. Couple Kiwi forwards.
Elijah Just, he's tied for the most assists in the Scottish Premiership. How do you feel about his long ball on the right side of the field, having played some short passing on the left side of the field last week?
I feel the same as I always do about Elijah Just. I know he can do all of these things. I've seen him doing it since he was 18 years old, playing for Eastern Suburbs in winning the New Zealand National League alongside all of his buddies there from the Ole Academy. He has 4 consecutive games with a goal contribution, so either a goal or an assist. And the game before that streak, he was man of the match against Celtic in a sort of upset victory there as well. So like just tremendous, spectacular, fantastic form that he is in Scotland. And looks like he's made it through I'm not surprised by this, but looks like he's made it through the transfer window without anyone sort of getting too freaky about let's chuck some silly money and bring him to Celtic or Rangers or anything like that, which is what everyone in Scotland does as soon as the player does well for a team. Other than that, well, how long until Celtic or Rangers sign him? So I'm looking forward to hearing plenty of that in the summer, though, once he's had a World Cup as well.
And a big
Which
weekend.
actually, I think that was a bit of buzz about Callum McCowart too, because you remember the Callum McCowart was sort of rumored to Minnesota. Would he be linking up with Boxy and Cam Knowles? Apparently, Minnesota's interested. A couple of teams in Norway interested, and Silkeborg are just like, nah, flat out knows we're not listening to anything. Not necessarily because they want to keep him long term, because they're a bit of a selling club, but more because they think his value will be higher after the World Cup. So,
I'm far more interested in Marko Stamenic than Callum McCallum. Marko Stamenic dominating for Swansea City, goal, an assist, and a 2-0 win. Is he a hero for Swansea?
Yes. You can be interested in Callum McCowart as well as that's the thing about the All Whites heading to a World Cup. With Chris Wood's been injured for ages, okay, but like there's 10 other players in career best form, in that starting lineup. I don't think we have to worry that much about it. And Marko Stamenic is one of them. Goal and assist on the weekend. He's a stat in Flying Kiwis week ago. Swansea's defense in particular much better when he's out there, but now he's scoring and assisting goals as well. He's doing the Marko Stamenic thing of making the team around him better. He's in a role where he's like his style of player is understood. He's allowed to do what he does best, and he's playing fantastically. He's been really good for them.
We'll be getting into those Flying Kiwis transfers and news in our bonus podcast on Thursday. I do love seeing these Kiwi footballers around the world loved and celebrated by their fan base. We've talked about it before, and latest examples being Elijah Just and Marko Stamenic and yourself. Big up to you. Have a good one. Do your best, kia kaha, stay beautiful, church.